You're probably wondering why I'm not wearing my usual attire. Well, I had to send it out to the cleaners and, well, I had to wear something, so I figured since I'm reviewing an RPG, I'd wear my Fate cosplay, because Fate is kind of like an RPG, I guess. But yeah, hello my friends and welcome to the Vita Anime and Games that is the Asian Zone. And in case you couldn't tell by my background and this little guy right here, I'm a huge Digimon fan. For those who don't know, Digimon was originally the boys' version of Tamagotchi. You raised it, fed it, gave it laxatives, then tried to get it to evolve into a cool looking dinosaur but ended up with an ugly looking slug thing that could turn into a supposedly OP Care Bear, but still you threw the stupid thing away because you wanted the dinosaur, not the goddamn Care Bear. Yet, despite my bad experiences with that waste of my allowance, it still ended up becoming popular enough to spawn an anime, and thankfully more manageable virtual pets that were basically children's pedometers. Growing up, Digimon was definitely my favorite anime that featured evolving monsters, despite the fact they were stretching the definition of what the word evolution means. To this day, I still wholeheartedly believe that any one season of this series is worlds better than what Pokemon is right now.
Huh? Look, Toots, I'm the dangerous fighter here, and I don't need any babysitter to hold my...
Well, almost every season, but I digress. Now, while I do think Digimon has the better anime and of course better children's pedometer,
Pika Pika, Pikachu, wear 'em, move 'em, shake 'em, take 'em. Pika Pika,
I do not miss a night. I do think that Pokemon has always had the better video games. Now, to be fair, every game in their main line has always been really good. I mean, they've been able to make games that have appealed to several generations of children just getting into RPGs. So it's a hard act to follow on. Though, even when you compare the Digimon World games against plain old RPGs, they've always sucked. The closest thing they've gotten to a good game was maybe Digimon World 1, as it did kind of emulate the original Virtual Pet better than the original Virtual Pet. The rest had awful graphics and sound, even for the times, and very tedious gameplay that forced me to break out the game chart so I didn't have to level grind so much. Yet, even after something as god-awful as Digimon World 3, somebody thought it would be a good idea to keep releasing these games in the US despite the critical panning. That is until somebody else thankfully fired that idiot and no more games were released in the US after Digimon World Championship. However, after a couple more games that underperformed in the sales, I heard the games got better after Digimon Adventure for the PSP. Then again, I would definitely pay money to actually see the warped evolutions of guys beside Agumon and Gabumon. I have heard Digimon World Redigitized Decode was decent, but we're not talking about that today. So, after 13 years since the last game I bought about them, I decided to give Digimon a second chance, especially considering it is their 15th anniversary. Was it worth it? Well, let's take a look at Digimon Story Cyber Sleuth and see for ourselves. Taking place in the near future, small gadgets called Digivices have been created to link a person's mind directly into a virtual reality cyberspace called Eden. And as Sword Art Online, Actual World, Hack, and many other movies and shows have shown us, plugging your brain directly into your computer never leads into anything bad. 3, 2, 1...
I can't see what's happening. Are we boned?
Yeah, we're boned.
Yeah, stuff starts going wrong when hackers who had been utilizing illegally modified Digivices start going into comas. This Eden syndrome, as it's called, seems to come as a result of hackers running into creatures called Eaters, evil giant Amanita that enjoy chowing down on any form of data, whether it be a human's virtual avatar, or even supposed viruses discovered by the hackers referred to as digital monsters, or more commonly, Digimon. So now it's up to a small group of newly formed hackers to team up with the Digimon to discover the secrets behind the Eaters and their connection with the creators of Eden, the Kamishiro Enterprise. Yeah, for anyone who's followed Digimon up until now, you should know that they're probably the one Japanese franchise that has a multiverse almost as big as either DC or Marvel. But anyway, this is a fairly standard story about the dangers of virtual reality and all that. Still, it does have some pretty decent twists in the latter half of the game. Granted, they were similar twists that had occurred in seasons 4 and 5 of the anime, but I think they handled it a lot better here, mostly because the protagonists actually look competent in this game. If you've seen those seasons, you know exactly what I mean. I also liked how the Eaters were introduced at the beginning of the story and remained the main thread of the game throughout. Yeah, one thing that kind of bothered me about Digimon was the fact that in almost all of the seasons, the main threat wasn't revealed until at least the halfway point. Yeah, as much as I love Digimon Tamers, it really bothered me that the real big bad of that season wasn't revealed until like episode 32 of that 51 episode season. Thankfully for this game, even though there's a twist in the middle that reveals another faction's involvement, the Eaters remain the actual main threat of the game, and they don't just switch out villains like they did with Tamers. And as the story progresses, the looming threat of the Eaters escalates until it expands out into more worldwide threatening levels. So yeah, it is a little bit cliched, but the twist in the middle is done really well, and it doesn't force me to have to break out the robot chicken clip. So yeah, I think these writers certainly know how to write an epic and rather intriguing little tale. Thankfully, unlike Ultra Despair Girls, I didn't have to save this for last. No, unlike that game, I have very clear opinions on the characters of this game. Well, most of them, but we'll get to that in just a minute. First, let me just say this game has a great cast of supporting characters. First, we've got Nokia, a super energetic little lady who reminds me a lot of Scootaloo or Nora from Ruby. A lot of energy without ever being too annoying, and also having a surprising amount of depth and insightfulness. Next, we've got Arata, easily the most computer savvy of the group, actually providing most of the technical support, which is pretty important in a game like this. He also goes through a rather shocking little story arc that I think is really well told, and thankfully not all over dramatic, especially considering how with that little story arc they could have gone the whole Ava route, but thankfully they didn't. Following that, we've got Yuko, a cute yet mysterious girl who is hiding all sorts of secrets in regards to the Eaters and the Kamishiro Enterprise. She also goes through a great story arc and probably has the most character development. Also, she ends up with the most badass looking partner Digimon in this whole game. Lastly, we've got Kyoko, a detective who acts as the mentor figure to the group. She's really cool and provides some very useful exposition. Though, judging by her attire, I'd say her methods of interrogation were inspired by Basic Instinct. Also, she has weirder taste in coffee than Nami from Kamen Rider Deno.
Naomi-chan, コーヒー何か入れた？はい。桃太郎ちゃんは唐辛子で疲れを取るやつだからって。ひなちゃんが。
Yeah, I'll take my coffee black, thank you very much. So yeah, I love the supporting cast of this game. The only character I have any real problems with, aside from a few of the villains, is unfortunately the main character. In this game, you get to choose between playing a male or female character, but whoever you end up with is a mostly silent protagonist. Yeah, I've personally never really liked silent protagonists in any of my video games. Heck, South Park The Stick of Truth made fun of this overused trope. I mean, I kind of tolerated them in more action games like Legend of Zelda or Half-Life, since Link and Gordon Freeman's actions spoke for themselves. But in an RPG, especially one with as many fascinating supporting characters as this, I kind of want my character to have an actual personality that will allow him to interact with everyone else. Now granted, as I said, my character is mostly a silent protagonist, as he did kind of interact with everyone else. But the problem is that we never actually get to hear what he's saying. Instead, everyone else just repeats back what he just said. Actually, I'd like to imagine that my main character saying some pretty raunchy stuff. What's that? The Digimon are attacking? Oh, we better do something. Yeah, that's a good idea. Wait, what is that about my mother? Say another word and I swear I'm gonna knock your block off. Okay, that's it. This is bothersome when you consider the fact that both the male and female player characters had voice actors behind them, and talented ones at that. The male player character had Yoshitsuko Matsuoka behind him, and the female player character had Rumi Okubo behind her. You have the actors behind Kirito and Kiryu's, but the only time you get to hear them in this entire game is during battles where they just say stock phrases like, "Are you ready? Let's do our best. Here's a potion." I mean, for God's sake! Every other character in this game is voiced in the majority of their scenes, and yet the actual main character of this game has a case of selective muteness. At times it seems like the game is trying to give the main character an actual personality through inner monologues and dialogue choices, but even those failed because I think I could count on one hand the number of scenes with inner monologues, and the dialogue choices never actually affected the story or gameplay. This is a far cry from games like Fate Extra and Persona that had protagonists who had tons of inner monologues, and your dialogue choices actually affected the gameplay and story significantly. It's a real shame because the setup for the ending could have been a lot more powerful if they had actually given my character. As it is, the cast of this game feels really flawed. If you like silent protagonists, then that's okay. But for me, with the possible exception of Link, I think they need to start speaking up.
Look at us talking. Wouldn't it be amazing if we could always talk?
Before we move on to the next subject, I think we should change out the background a little bit. For anyone out there who doesn't recognize this, may I suggest you go watch Summer Wars right now? Yeah, the game is split between the real and virtual world, with Eden looking like a combination of the internet from the second Digimon movie, Our War Game, and Oz from Summer Wars. Which only makes sense since both movies were directed by Mamoru Hosoda and had almost the exact same plot. Yeah, I do think Hosoda Sensei is brilliant and everything, but I think he should try to avoid retreading similar territory. I do think it was a great choice to go with Hosoda Sensei's designs and concepts for Eden, as it looks fantastic and really creative. I especially love the contrast between the bright and colorful main servers of Eden against the darker and drearier sub-servers that are the gathering grounds of the hackers. I said before that I prioritize a game's art design more than its actual graphical quality, but even the quality of the graphics here is really good too. The textures are nice and smooth, the characters move realistically with very expressive body language, which sort of makes up for the main character's lack of vocal abilities, and also traveling to and from Eden is pretty awesome. I especially like the effect of warping into it through the television. The real world also looks really good. The main character's HQ is Kyoko's detective agency that resides in a real-life shopping complex called Nakano Broadway in Tokyo, Japan. From there, your investigations will lead you to explore other major districts in Tokyo. And while I've personally never been to Nakano, I have been to pretty much everywhere else you explore in this game. These districts include Shinjuku, Shibuya, Akasaka, Ueno, Odaiba, and of course the otaku mecca of the world, Akihabara. And for the most part, I think they were able to recreate all of these places with some really good detail. I actually kind of remember walking down these very streets. Character designs are done really well too. They are a little bit over the top and seem to be asked to be cosplayed. Though I don't think anything can compare with Danganronpa or Persona in what they consider to be normal attire. Still, the real treat of this game is definitely the designs of the Digimon. I've always loved the designs of these guys, from the adorable baby to rookie level Digimon, to the awesome designs of the champion to mega level Digimon. These guys have been around since 1997, and they still look really damn good to this day. With over 230 of these guys, there's a lot to behold in what is a really nice looking game for the PS Vita. Aside from our main character who suffers from selective muteness, every other major character in this game has a professional VA behind them. My personal favorite is Megumi Han, who is able to bring her pluckiness as Kira Princess into the role of Nokia. We've also got Yuko being played by Yui's actress Kanai Ito. Sailor Mercury's VA Aya Hisakawa plays one of the major bad guys of this game. And they even got the original voice actresses of Agumon and Gabumon to come back and reprise their roles for this game. If at all possible, I'd love to see Steve Bloom reprise all of his Digimon roles for the American version of this game, if they do release it.
Takato-man? I'm not a Digimon. Takato. Takato-man.
Wait, I will talk to you. And perhaps you can answer all of the questions that plague me.
I didn't know there'd be a quiz involved.
But yeah, the voice acting in this game is great. Too bad I can't say the same for the music. I don't know, it never really caught my attention like Danganronpa or Persona. Probably because there was a distinct lack of any real vocals in this soundtrack. Yeah, unfortunately this game has no real opening or ending theme, which, considering the anime's track record for having fantastic opening and ending themes in most languages, is a real shame. Still, nothing grating, other than the crap produced by this Kiss wannabe, but I guess that was kind of the point of his character. You know, this guy wouldn't stand a chance against Momoyo Clover Z. Still, I do really like the sound effects in this game, as I think they matched it perfectly. I don't know how you're supposed to generate the sound of a person being converted into digital cyberspace, but somehow they got it. So, a little more music would be appreciated, but for the most part, I think they did a really good job here. Now this is the one area they needed to get right, especially after they made me suffer through 2 really god-awful wastes of time. So, first let's talk about exploration, shall we? One thing that did kind of grind my gears at first was the fact that I couldn't rotate the camera around. But after the first hour, it didn't bother me anymore. That's because the levels are designed so that you don't need a rotating camera, as they are pretty straightforward. That doesn't mean they don't encourage exploration. They never feel too long or too short, and like any good RPG, there are plenty of treasure chests to find, which I always enjoy doing. What I don't like as much is exploring the real world. It's not because I hate the look of it, as I said earlier, I love the recreation of my favorite city, but more because of the loading screens. While this game does load fairly quickly, the real world is split up into way too many sections that need to load whenever you enter it. This was especially true of Nakano Broadway, where every time you would turn a corner there was a loading screen. And this gets really frustrating, especially during investigations which are boring enough as is, as you're basically just either talking to people or doing something like a fetch quest. I was never happier to have an elevator than I was in this game. Now the game does kind of make up for it with unique hacking abilities. You use most of them to solve puzzles, but there are also abilities that lower your chances of running into a random battle or even force a battle when you want to gain experience. By the end of the game, you can even stop random battles altogether, which is really nice. Though, I do kind of wish I could have used the cloaking ability a little more, as it was a cool effect, but it's no big deal. Moving on to combat, let's start off with the basics. At the beginning, you get to choose between 3 different Digimon, each one representing a different type. Sound familiar? Yeah, Cyber Sleuth does have a type advantage battle system, much like Pokemon's, but a lot more simplified. There's only 4 types of Digimon: Data, Virus, Vaccine, and Free. For those first 3, it's basically a game of rock, paper, scissors. Data beats Vaccine, vaccine beats virus, and virus beats data. Basically, when you have the type advantage, your Digimon can deal double the damage, and when attacked will only receive half the normal amount of damage. The fourth free class is basically typeless, so while it can't deal double the damage, it also won't receive double the damage. So basically, think about this game being like Pokemon if the only available types were grass, fire, water, and normal. You can also deal out 1.5 times damage if you use the right type of attack on certain Digimon, meaning that with the right attack and right typing, you can deal out triple the damage to an enemy. Honestly, while this does make the game sound like a stripped down version of Pokemon, Cyber Sleuth also is able to throw in its own unique touches. First of all, for every battle, you get to use 3 Digimon at once, and at any time you can switch out 1 or more of them with your reserves. In total, you're allowed to have 11 Digimon in your party at once. Best part is that your Digimon will receive the same amount of experience points, where there's 1 or 11 of them in your party. And you can make a bunch of new Digimon pretty quickly with the Digilab. Here, not only can you instantly heal your party, you can also use data you gathered to recreate Digimon you had previously fought. You see, every time you battle a new Digimon, you'll slowly be able to scan its data. Eventually, after running into the same Digimon enough times, the scan will reach 100%, and you can have this nice lady make you a brand new Digimon. Now, the game does put in limitations to prevent you from having an OP team before the first major boss battle, but by the end you should be able to put together your dream team if you're a Digimon fan. Yeah, another thing you can do at the Digilab is of course Digivolve your team. And unlike previous games, the requirements needed to Digivolve are spelled out very clearly as long as you can read Japanese. So by the end you can end up with some of your favorites from the anime. For me personally, I was dead set on getting Black or Greymon. But of course you can also recreate the Dark Masters, Imperialdramon, Beelzemon, and one of my personal favorites, Seraphmon. And even if you're not a Digimon fan, there's a lot of different evolutionary lines, so the game encourages experimentation. Again, with over 230 Digimon, there's a lot of different combinations of teams you could try. Also, certain Digimon can learn different moves. While they can only take up to 6 moves into battle, a single Digimon can remember up to 20 different moves and switch them out before battle. Now, while this might sound a little bit daunting, you don't have to worry as you don't need a particularly strong team early on in the game as it requires little to no level grinding. Yeah, the thing I hated about all of the Digimon World games was the required level grinding to get past certain bosses. Not helped by the fact that the battles were slow paced as all hell and just boring to look at. Here, the battles are well paced and have nice animations, especially when you pull off combo attacks. And as long as you're able to maintain a team with the 3 major types, then the game will never feel too difficult or too easy. To me, this game has one of the best learning curves I've ever seen in an RPG. It kept me interested for about 20 hours in the main game, and I'm still going back to play the extra challenges and DLC battles, and even some online play. It's an addicting and fantastic experience that whether you're a fan of the franchise or not, you'll find a lot to like. This game not only impressed me as a Digimon fan, it also blew me away as an RPG fanatic in general. I consider it to be one of the best games that's currently on the PS Vita right now, along with Persona 4 Golden. It removed any doubts I had about the Digimon franchise as a video game series, and I'm really looking forward to what else they're going to do with this property to bring it into the new generation. On the positive side of things, the graphics are top-notch with well-designed characters and worlds. The supporting characters are all well fleshed out and, in Nokia's case, a ton of fun. The gameplay is well put together with a great learning curve that requires next to no level grinding. But if you're anything like me, you'll want to level grind a little because there's a bunch of different higher level Digimon you'll want to try to use, leading to a ton of variety and strategy in the battle. And most of all, for fans of this franchise, it's just amazing to be able to put together your own dream team of all of your favorite Digimon. On the flip side of that, while the supporting cast is great, the main character has no real personality, even by the standards of most silent protagonists in video games. The music is forgettable. The story, while well told, is a little bit cliched and unfortunately borrows plot points from 2 of the less popular seasons of the anime. And the gameplay is held back by boring investigations and one too many loading screens. If you're a fan of Digimon or RPGs, then this is a must-have as long as you can read Japanese. I give Digimon Story Cyber Sleuth 4.5 Ogmons out of 5. Well, this has been a fun little review. I got to visit the digital world, I got to see a stoner's vision of what the internet looks like, and I got to see a kid fight an evil virus by typing on a keyboard. How is he able to make that rabbit do all that stuff? No, whatever. It's been a good day. So, what's next on the chopping block? You know what? I think I'm gonna hang out here for a little bit more. See you guys next time, or actually see you guys whenever Van Pressel decides to take a few lessons on how to make a good RPG like this one.